This is the Behind the Line podcast, coming to you from the wacky left coast capital of Seattle. News from the Pacific Northwest, the left coast, the U.S., and the world that matters. The stories the MSM won't talk about. Deciphering the truth through all the lies. For more, visit BehindTheLinePodcast.com.
All right, we have some breaking news on this Wednesday, September 13th, overnight. In Ukraine, UK Storm Shadow missile cruise missiles were used as part of the attack on the headquarters for Russia's Black Sea Fleet in occupied Crimea, according to military sources. The UK supplied Ukraine with Storm Shadow missiles earlier this year in June, and then Defense Secretary Ben Wallace told Parliament that the missiles were having a significant impact. It is my understanding its accuracy and ability to deliver successfully the payload as sent and designed by the Ukrainians has been almost without fault, he said. A submarine and a landing ship were hit in the attack, a Ukrainian spy agency official has said. Russia blamed Ukraine for the attack, saying the Sevastopol shipyard in Crimea was struck by 10 cruise missiles. We can confirm a large landing vessel and submarine were hit. We do not comment on the means used for the strike, Andriy Yusov, the official, told Reuters. Earlier, Kim Jong-un promised that North Korea would help Russia fight imperialism as he and Vladimir Putin met for weapons talks. This is from the Independent. UK missiles, and we all know that American ingenuity and advisors on the ground probably played a role in that as well. So things ramping up again on the Ukraine front. And you would imagine that Russia will respond to this. This is a major attack. Here's some more disturbing news that I would almost call breaking news that I don't see any news stories about. This happened over the weekend. The FDA has decided to ban Big Berkey water filters. They want to classify the filter as a pesticide. Yeah, a pesticide. Why? Because it filters out viruses, the C virus and many other viruses. And so based on that, they're trying to say that pesticides kill viruses, so they're trying to classify it as a pesticide. Don't believe me? Well, here is the CEO of Berkey Water Filters himself.
Here, Jim, why is the EPA suddenly coming after you and saying you have to, it should be considered part of pesticides instead of water filters?
Well, it's nice to talk with you, Emerald, and it's kind of an interesting story. I was talking with my EPA consultant last year in May, and he told me that the EPA was, because of COVID-19, they were considering reinterpreting their regulations and making water filters that are capable of removing virus pesticides. And so I asked him, I said, well, what kind of guidance are they giving us about it? Because we don't know what, what we need to do in a situation like this. And he goes, well, they're being very tight-lipped and they're giving absolutely no guidance. And then about the same time, we got confirmation from the EPA that we were an exempt device. And so we really didn't think too much about it. And then all of a sudden in December, the EPA started issuing stop sale orders to our dealers. And then they went to our manufacturers and vendors and started shutting them down. And so we're kind of in this crazy reinterpretation phase of the EPA, where somehow, and this logic is so bent, I don't quite understand it, but because of the threat of COVID-19 being in the water, they want to make water filters that remove virus unavailable to the American people, and that's kind of where we stand.
Why is the government trying to ban water filters? Especially one of the highest sold water filters in the country, highest rated water filter in the country. Why is the government going after them? Especially right now, with everything that's going on, all the possible problems on the horizon where people may need to filter water, what are they doing? And on a little side note, one of the other largest water filter companies that was providing filters to Maui and others, one of the contractors trying to get filters for Maui said that they were unable to order any from that company as well because some unknown entity had bought up all the filters and they had none left to sell. So what is going on with that? Is the government coming in and buying up filters so that regular citizens can't have access to them? And for what purpose? This is something to keep your eyes on, folks, and I hope with everything going on over the summer and the things that we see on the horizon, you are preparing accordingly. Well, I'm sure by now we've all seen this crazy gun ban that's occurred in New Mexico, where the governor has decided that she's going to place a 30-day ban on concealed and open carry in the city and county of Albuquerque. All because of a 11-year-old child that was shot in a drive-by shooting. And New Mexico has a serious crime problem. But banning law-abiding citizens from carrying their weapons and protecting themselves does nothing to stop crime. Criminals don't abide by laws. If you want to stop the criminal behavior, you should start enforcing the laws and making harsher sentences and punishment for people who don't follow the law, who commit crimes with guns, instead of, like every other Democrat-run city, county, and state, letting them back out on the street and not punishing them accordingly. Well, the sheriff came out and said that he won't enforce this gun ban because it's unconstitutional. And apart from that, the governor also recently passed a law down there where police can be sued personally for violations of people's constitutional rights. So if the sheriff's office was to enforce these laws, or the police department, and down the road it is ruled unconstitutional, which it's going to be because everybody can see that it clearly is, then the cops who made these arrests or enforced this ridiculous ban on people would be sued personally, and that's just going to open up a huge nightmare for the law enforcement agencies. But the sheriff also said that his own brother had been shot at just 2 weeks ago when he was at the park with his kid, and he wasn't going to enforce a law on his own family members where they can't protect themselves when they're out in the public. So good on him. But now you've also got the New Mexico Attorney General, Raul Torres, who is a Democrat. He came out publicly and said he will not defend the governor's controversial gun order, which is already facing multiple lawsuits. And she doesn't care. It's not her money. She's not being sued personally. It's taxpayers' money that's going to pay for all that. And her whole attitude about this, and she knows it's unconstitutional, well, we'll see. We'll just let it play out in court. That's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars minimum to play out in court for her little whim to see what happens. She also said the Constitution wasn't absolute. Since when? This whole country is based on that document. Every law in this country is based on that document. It is absolute. Biden has also said that in the past. Torres told the governor in a letter Tuesday that he believed the emergency order, which temporarily bans people from carrying firearms in public spaces across Bernalillo County, violated the state and federal constitutions. Because of that, he said his office would not defend the governor against several legal challenges. I am writing to inform you that my office will not defend your administration in the above referenced cases challenging Lujan Grisham's order, Torres wrote. Though I recognize my statutory obligation as New Mexico's chief legal officer to defend state officials when they are sued in their official capacity, my duty to uphold and defend the constitutional rights of every citizen takes precedence, his letter continued. Simply put, I do not believe that the emergency order will have any meaningful impact on public safety, but more importantly, I do not believe it passes constitutional muster. That's from a Democrat. This lady is insane. She needs to be impeached, removed from office. Lujan Grisham signed an executive order on Friday that banned open and concealed carry firearms in Albuquerque and the rest of the surrounding county. The governor enacted the order to remain in place for 30 days after a spate of shootings that killed several children. She wrote an emergency health order to do that. And there's actually been some talk of that in Washington state in the recent past as well. The tragic deaths of 5-year-old Galia Samingo in a recent drive-by shooting and 11-year-old Froylan Villegas in a road rage incident should serve as a wake-up call to everyone, Torres wrote. Absolutely it should. And you people in authority need to stop making our laws weak. Stop making our law enforcement weak. Start enforcing crimes and punishments for those crimes the way you're supposed to do. I encourage you to engage in a more thoughtful and deliberative process with members of the New Mexico legislature rather than taking the unilateral action that infringes on the constitutional rights of law-abiding citizens while having little, if any, discernible impact on the underlying dynamics driving gun violence in our community. This guy's got it 100%. Torres, a Democrat, joins a handful of other officials in refusing to enforce or defend the order. Albuquerque Mayor Tim Keller, also a Democrat, said in a statement to social media that the city's police force would not be responsible for enforcing the governor's order. Bernalillo County Sheriff John Allen announced on Monday that he would not enforce the order either, calling it unconstitutional. Lujan Grisham responded to Allen in a statement to the New Mexico Political Report, saying that her administration had given you the tools, Sheriff Allen. Now stop being squeamish about using them. I will not back down from doing what's right, and I will always put the safety of the people of New Mexico first. Complete lunatic. You are not putting the safety of the people of New Mexico first. If you were doing that, you would be enforcing laws and incarcerating people that break those laws with meaningful sentences, not a few months or out on your signature or we're going to give you another chance and all this garbage that goes on in these Democrat cities, counties, and states. Lujan Grisham said in an interview on CNN, it's not for police to tell me what's constitutional or not. Well, they haven't supported not one gun violence effort in the state of New Mexico, including domestic violence protections, universal background checks. This lady's she knows it all. She knows better than you what's good for you. Just like a lot of Democrats. Not all, obviously, because we have some here in New Mexico, thankfully, that are doing the right thing, that know. The New Mexico governor has also taken criticism from prominent national progressives over her gun orders, such as California Rep. Ted Lee and gun control activist David Hogg. Each said that the governor's order violated the U.S. Constitution. Yeah, if this lady hasn't figured out that she's severely overstepped her authority yet, I don't know what, people like this should not be. How do people like this get into power? Why do people vote these people into power? Can we just get some moderate people that can see both sides of an argument? Whatever happened to that? Why are we so far past being able to have a middle ground with each other? You've got all these absolute wackos running these states, trying to enforce these crazy laws that violate our rights. When is enough enough? When are we going to stand up to this tyranny? When are we going to put a stop to this garbage? Public safety, lady. We have laws in place for that. You, like many other Democrat governors, have usurped those laws. You've tied the hands of law enforcement. You've tied the hands of judges, or you've got liberal judges that you've put into the courts. and you're letting these people back out to hurt people and kill kids, this is on you. This is on every Democrat governor in these states where this happens. Chicago, Illinois, Washington, Oregon, California, all of them. New York. The people have had it with this. Okay, I gotta talk about this fire in Maui for a minute. This whole thing, I mean, I think probably the electrical lines are going to be the culprit when it comes down to it with the fire, but all the backhanding and inexperience that's going on over there and the way that whole thing was handled, I mean, I guess it shouldn't be any shock, because anytime the government gets involved in trying to manage a disaster, it is just a disaster. They don't know how. They seem to have people in the positions of making decisions to help people who have no experience, don't know what to do, make all the wrong decisions. This is just something we see time after time after time with any major disaster, right? And you've got the people who took videos showing these roadblocks of people trying to get out. And first of all, I just want to say, like, this is something I have experience with. I was a firefighter, volunteer and paid, for more than 17 years. I worked as a firefighter EMT. I worked as a wildland firefighter. I was a relief duty captain. I've worked, like I said, paid positions. I was an arson investigator for a long time. So this is something I know a little about. And I was a police officer for 9 years. And what I can tell you is you don't block the escape routes from a fire. So first of all, they denied that happened. But then, of course, these videos come out from people who showed that it happened. And then they won't answer the questions on why. Denials, lying, just refusal to answer questions that they should have to answer. You've got a guy who was in charge of the emergency management on Maui who had zero experience in emergency management. Why? Who put that guy in charge? Who was he friends with that good old boyed that dude into the position he was in? This happens all the time, everywhere. Like, this is going on probably in the town or city you live in right now. There are people who have these very important positions. And granted, maybe they'll never have to make decisions like this. Hopefully they won't. But that doesn't mean you put somebody in, you know, your buddy, your best friend, your lover, your mistress, your whatever. You don't put those people in those positions as a favor to give them a good job, to whatever. This happens all the time. There needs to be some kind of review, you know, in every city to see if these people are qualified for these positions. Because when it comes down and something does happen, you don't want some idiot moron in charge trying to figure out what to do who has no idea. You want people with experience who have worked those jobs, who know what needs to be done, so they can make quick decisions under pressure, accurate decisions under pressure. Clearly, this did not happen in Maui. So now FEMA rolls in to save the day, right? And what are they doing? They're staying in a $1,000 a night luxury resort. That's where they're running their operations from. And the guy that's running stuff on the ground was on the news last night saying, well, you know, we're not paying $1,000 a night. We got a government $300 a night. Who cares? Like, that's not the point. The point is you're staying in a 5-star luxury resort on the beach. You're there to help these people. You're not there on vacation, bud. And then he said, well, we're not taking rooms either from people, you know, who need a place to go. And then the next clip is showing all these Maui residents in a high school gym on cots. Are you kidding me, guy? Like, that's where you people should be. FEMA should be set up in the high school on cots, running their operation. And those people that lost Everything should be in that hotel. They gave each resident from Lahaina $700. What is that going to do? What is that going to do? Nothing. That's my grocery bill for a month. What is that going to do for those people? That's not going to get them into an apartment somewhere. That's not going to get them much food. That's not going to get them anything. That's a slap in the face. That's what that is. And then a citizen reported that the residents had cooked 150 home-cooked meals and FEMA threw them out. And I looked for some kind of news article about that, and there's nothing. But this lady says, a resident from Maui, she said this at some meeting that was occurring over on Honolulu about it. 150 home-cooked meals thrown in the garbage because they didn't meet FDA standards. Are you shitting me? Are we this stupid that we actually do this stuff? Like, these people need help. They need food. They need water. They need a place to stay. They need just to feel normal. And we're going to worry about FDA standards and lawyers and insurance companies and government regulations. What is wrong with these people? Is there no common sense left anymore? There's none. There's no common sense. Now, we've seen FEMA drop the ball so many times when it comes to natural disasters and other stuff in this country. I don't know why this surprises anybody. I don't know why anybody believes that the government is coming to help you if something goes wrong, because they're not. They don't know how to manage. They just don't. And I'm going to harken back to 2006, where they staged food for the 2006 hurricane season in the Gulf Coast, and as many as 13.4 million prepared meals stockpiled there, spoiled in the Gulf Coast heat during the summer, when FEMA ran short of warehouse and refrigeration space, according to agency officials. In all, hundreds of truckloads of food worth more than $70 million were thrown away. Or scavenged for unspoiled contents to be offered to domestic hunger relief groups. Most of the meals were box lunches. Federal disaster management officials decided to position huge amounts of food, water, and ice in the southeastern United States last year after they were condemned for failing to quickly deliver critical supplies to victims of Hurricane Katrina, because we all saw what happened there. All those homes that never, ever even got to the people, they just rotted away. All those little single-wide trailer things that they had, and all the food that went bad there too. No water. This is the federal government. How do you not have the space or the refrigeration for your own supplies? Because you're an idiot and you shouldn't be in charge, because people shouldn't rely on you. If you aren't preparing for yourself for any kind of disaster, if you really believe that the government is going to come help you or bring you what you need, listen to this. Watch, look back, look it up for yourself. Look up FEMA and all their failures and see what's going on right now in Maui. They don't know what they're doing. They're a bunch of idiots. They can't get organized. They can't get there fast enough. They can't get the stuff to the people it needs to go to. They're useless. Those are people that were appointed to jobs that don't have the experience or the brain power to do those jobs. I don't know, it just pisses me off to see them staying in that resort when those people are sleeping in a high school gym. Those FEMA people should be in tents or in the gym. And those people that lost everything, including kids and family members, should be in those hotels so they get some sense of normalcy. If it doesn't piss you off, it should. So on top of everything else that's going on, we may be facing supply chain shortages again here real soon, because the Panama Canal is having a water shortage. There is a drought, and ships aren't able to make it through the Panama Canal once again. You notice how all this stuff is happening after the U.S. relinquished control of the Panama Canal? All these issues. The Panama Canal could reduce the maximum number of authorized daily vessel transits, and this year's drought continues, the Waterways Administrator said on Tuesday. A backlog of ships is waiting to pass through the Transoceanic Canal, 135 to be specific, which handles an estimated 5% of world trade. It began restricting vessel draft and daily passage authorizations this year to conserve water. Yes, there's ocean on both sides, but fresh water from Panama goes into the middle to help raise and lower the canal. And they're low on water. Many vessels have had to lighten cargoes before passing, and freight costs have risen ahead of the Christmas shipping season. Up to 32 ships are currently authorized to transit every day, down from 36 ships in normal conditions. Maximum vessel drafts have been limited to 44 feet, down from 50 feet. So that's a problem, You can't just change your ship or the size of your ship. Now you've got to play these games out on the ocean where you're shifting cargo around from one ship to another so that the ship doesn't sit in the water too deep. To ease the bottleneck, the canal recently changed its reservation system to allow more non-booked vessels to pass and prioritize ships waiting the longest. As of Tuesday, 116 vessels were waiting to pass in Panama, down from 160 in early August. The maximum wait time was 14 days, down from 21 days a month ago. The head of the Panama Canal Authority, Carte Vasquez, said the waterway would opt for reducing daily transits if needed before planning any further cut to authorized vessel draft, which affects shippers the most. Passage to restrictions are not planned for this month, but in its budget for the fiscal year beginning in October, the canal foresees a possible cut to 30 to 31 daily transits. 30 to 31. The El Niño weather phenomenon has been very severe this year. We have hot temperatures in the Pacific and Atlantic simultaneously. Vasquez told journalists in a briefing, "We anticipate that the upcoming months, in the absence of significant rain, will have to be prepared." So this is going to be a problem for getting stuff to the West Coast or stuff from China to the East Coast. So prices are going to go up. You may not have stuff on the store shelves again. So again, I implore you, if you're not preparing for stuff like this, you need to be. You need to have food and things that you need at your home so that you don't have to rely on these people trying to ship stuff to the stores. Plan ahead. Liberty gun safes. That name is like a staple with Second Amendment lovers and gun owners and conservatives. Well, it shouldn't be anymore. Liberty Safe willfully granted the FBI backdoor access to one of its customers' gun safes because the federal law enforcement agency demanded it. The feds called the manufacturer of Liberty Gun Safe and got the passcode to get into it too. All for protesting at the Capitol. This was all because the guy who owned the safe protested at the Capitol over 2.5 years ago. Nathan Hughes, the 34-year-old owner of the compromised Liberty Gun Safe, was arrested at gunpoint and charged last week with 1 felony and 3 misdemeanors related to his presence in the U.S. Capitol building on January 6, 2021. During the raid on his home, the FBI ransacked his house and attempted to confiscate the firearms from his safe. Liberty confirmed on Tuesday that it gave the disgraced federal law enforcement agency a combination to break into Hughes' gun safe simply because the FBI produced a warrant to search Hughes' home. Safe companies like Liberty are not necessarily required to comply with law enforcement requests for combos to break into one of their purchased products unless a court orders them to do so. Liberty, however, claimed it is their company protocol to give law enforcement entry and access to its products as long as those agencies possess a warrant. Let me just say that Apple refused to give the FBI access to a terrorist's cell phone because they said if they did it for that guy, they'd have to do it for everyone. And they didn't want to do it. And so they didn't. Apple is one of the most liberal companies in the world, protecting your rights more than Liberty gun safes. Think about that. The manufacturer's confession that its products' security is compromised due to the existence of a master code and its willingness to work with law enforcement even without a court order did not go over well with several loyal Liberty customers who threatened on social media to cancel their orders and switch safe companies. Others criticized Liberty for its double standard on safe security. If a customer loses his safe keys or forgets his safe combination, Liberty requires him to hire a certified locksmith to gain entry. If the FBI wants to get into Liberty's customer's safe, all agents have to do is dial up the company and show them a warrant with the customer's name on it. Liberty tried to reassure customers that it was still devoted to protecting the personal property and Second Amendment rights of our customers, and it has repeatedly denied requests for access codes without a warrant in the past. Well, you didn't this time. Why? Because you have some other political agenda and the January 6th thing just didn't sit well with you, or what? This is just, if you own one of these safes, get rid of it. Don't buy from them. These people need to go the way of Budweiser, in my opinion. They need to be put out of business. It is not their job to provide that information to law enforcement. And I am an ex-law enforcement officer. This is egregious. This is just another violation of your rights. In my personal opinion, you shouldn't have any kind of digital piece of hardware to lock up anything that's important to you in. Because especially the new digital stuff that's connected to the internet or whatever, they'll have some way to get into that without your knowledge. You just need good old-fashioned combination lock or padlock or a hole in the ground. But buying this trash from these trash companies, you need to really think twice. The only person looking out for you is you.
Thank you for listening to the Behind the Line podcast. If you like this broadcast, please like and share it. Please follow us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, Twitter, Truth Social, Telegram, Gab, Parler, and LinkedIn. You can find our podcast at BehindTheLinePodcast.com, NetNewsNetwork.net, and on Anchor, Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and anywhere podcasts can be found. Thank you for your support.